Howdy, folks. Happy Friday. Thank God it's Friday. Thank God it's not Thanksgiving because I ate way too much yesterday. And I'll talk about that in a second, but we'll start with something else. Russ, start with the show.
Let me start with the NFL real quick. Not because of Thanksgiving games. We don't want to upset Kevin. We know what happens with the Lions.
Well, no, I have to talk about that.
All right, go ahead. I'll let you do that first.
Well, I'm sure a lot of our listeners are fantasy football players because most of us, are in fantasy everything leagues. But I have never seen anything like this before. And I've been playing fantasy sports for over 35 years. My football team played against a team that had 4 players playing in the 2 Thanksgiving Day games. And after those 2 games, I didn't have a single player in either of those games because I'm smart enough not to take a Detroit Lions player. But after those 2 games, I am trailing in fantasy football 119-0. Because he had Deshaun Watson, he had Fuller,
Gibson.
He had Gibson, and he had Amani Cooper for Dallas. So 119-0 is my deficit. I have never seen anything like that ever. Of course, I was watching the Lions game because that's, part of the tradition. We have 2 turkeys on Thanksgiving. We have the game, and then we eat the bird that's cooked. By the way, we were just talking about turkeys, and I had mine. I didn't do it, but my son-in-law did. Deep fried outside, dipped in, and it takes about 40 minutes.
How was it?
It was good. The first, believe it or not, was the late Bill Gadsby was the first guy to ever mention that the idea of deep frying a turkey. He was doing this long ago, and he always told me it was the best way to have it. I had never done it until a couple years ago, but maybe the buildup was too much. So it's good, but I don't get down and bow down to it the way everybody else does. It's good. It's moist. The traditional way is fine with me as well.
Yeah. If you want the amusing version of the deep fried turkey, go onto YouTube and just search deep fried turkey explosion, where somebody put the frozen turkey in there and it blows up. I've seen that. And then the other issue, of course, is in Detroit here, we're all waiting for the shoe to drop on Matt Patricia and Quinn, the general manager. I thought it was possible because it has happened before that, a coach has been fired right after a game, but it was Thanksgiving. And my son-in-law said, well, they'll probably let him enjoy his dinner before lowering the boom. But I can't imagine that he's going to survive.
Well, today, in terms of turkey, I had Ezekiel Elliott yesterday, so I can very much feel your pain there.
Yeah.
In the league I'm in first place in, I had Zeke. In the 2 leagues that I stink, one I had Stafford, and one I had Deshaun Watson. So it was clearly a mixed bag day for me. But Zeke was just horrific.
Well, if he gets fired today, Kev, since it's Black Friday, it'd be like the Black Monday after the end of the regular season, so it'd be appropriate. But I have to say this, just that, and I wish Anthony was here because he could confirm this. I don't know if it's an Italian family thing or if it's just a family thing for Thanksgiving, but people make way too much food.
That's Thanksgiving.
Oh my God. I treasure my niece and her hosting and taking on the responsibilities of hosting Thanksgiving because we did it for years. But it was, not only the traditional turkey and stuffing, but mashed potatoes and mashed sweet potatoes and vegetables and mac and cheese. It was we didn't even knock a dent into the food that she had, and there were 7 people there. So
that's normal. What I was going to say to finish up my point is the NFL should not have this Ravens-Steelers game on Sunday. They've got 12 guys out with COVID. Even sources are telling Adam Schefter there's no way they could play. But the NFL, in all of its grace, and I'm saying that facetiously, hasn't said a word about it. I got to be honest. If they play this game, they should not make it eligible to be gambled on, because not only will you have RG3 starting at quarterback, but you're missing not only some key players, but you're missing up to 12 players.
Vegas will just pull it off, Russ. They may pull the money.
My view on this, Russ, is I think eventually they're going to say they're going to try to play it on Tuesday, is what happened earlier this year.
Okay.
And then we'll see if anybody's healthy enough to play. Because originally yesterday the announcement was they only had one new case, and they said it was a coach or a staff member. And then clearly the other news broke in terms of Lamar Jackson, and then obviously the downstream impacts of all of that, of the other guys.
There were 4 others
as well.
I think there were 4 others this morning that I heard.
Yep.
So, and they can't even get into their facility until Monday at the earliest, which probably they can't even get into it on Monday now. So they essentially will go a whole week without practice. Like, I don't know how much more evidence a league needs to have to cancel a game, but we'll see.
Well, we better get used to it because we're going to see this in the NHL.
Two quick things. One, Kev, I saw the Lions wearing their just full silver helmet.
Yeah.
Is that something they do on every Thanksgiving?
No.
Okay.
No, but they wear it sporadically, and we do see it.
I like that look. It's a
Cool look.
Yeah, I do
Nice
too.
look. I mean, the product on the field leaves a lot to be desired, but
Yeah.
this is why Matt Patricia should have probably been fired before the year started.
I tweeted it gave us normalcy. We saw the Lions lose on Thanksgiving. Everything was normal.
I like that. You know what? That makes sense. I love to bring this statistic out because it really helps to bring home the misery of the Lions. And, everybody talks about you have the streaks with the Maple Leafs at 67 and all that. But I am 65 years old. And in my lifetime, the Detroit Lions have won 1 playoff game.
Like it's almost impossible to believe.
Yes,
it really is. Like, that is hard to believe. Like even me as a Jet fan and Jan as a partial Jet fan. Well, you like the Raiders too.
Partial. I'm a person who had season tickets, Bub. I paid my money.
Yeah, you like the Raiders.
I paid my money.
I don't like the Raiders. Anyhow, as a partial Jet fan, we think that we have it really bad. But, like I at least was 5 years old when they won a Super Bowl. They haven't been back, but they had championship game, appearances. And Kev, I feel for you. It's almost impossible.
Now,
there's tears.
It's hard to believe that a historic franchise like the Lions has never been to a Super Bowl.
And it was
hard to believe they can't fix it. Like, it's just – this is a lot of years that they've had to correct this.
Well, that was 91, right? It was when they beat Dallas and then they lost to Washington.
Yeah, I covered that game.
Yeah.
And I also a lot of people don't realize, but I've covered like 100 NFL games because I did when I lived in Michigan. Like when they were home, I always did the home games for USA Today. So for like 15 years, I was doing 8 games a year.
So you saw a lot of Eric Hipple.
So, but I saw, Barry Sanders, and he was just so remarkable. And the fact that they couldn't win. And, they had some good teams like, the Wayne Fonts era. Everybody used to laugh about Wayne Fonts, but, they always had sort of a right on the cusp record. They've had some good seasons. Scott Mitchell came in and played well in the years where they had, Herman Moore and Perriman and stuff, and then Barry Sanders running. But, I saw a stat yesterday that Caldwell was their coach, and he had a winning record and was 9-7 the season before he was fired, and had gone to two playoff rounds, though he lost, but he got into the playoffs twice in 3 years. Already in 3 seasons, Patricia's lost 29 games, and we haven't even finished this. So,
is it the Fords? Do they need to give up the team to change the luck? Is it really? Because that's the one constant.
Well, everybody says that, but I think a lot of this has been the coaching carousel, because what happens in the NFL, and this drives me crazy. Every NFL team, because you don't see this in the NHL. And when an NFL coach takes over a new guy, he acts as if the 40 guys on that roster are the worst 40 guys in the league. So he starts completely over. And he doesn't pay any homage. And that has happened so many times in Detroit in my lifetime. So, you get a new coach every 3 years. And then, when they were a little bit close, well, they tear it all down and start over. Yeah. And Patricia did that. They were 15th, ranked 15th. This is another stat I saw yesterday. Ranked 15th defensively under Caldwell in his last season. And then in Patricia's first year, it was 21st, and then 26th, and now 29th.
And Patricia was a defensive coach from New England.
Yeah, he was gonna turn the defense around like nobody's business.
Well, talking about the coaching carousel, and we'll start after this. The Bills, their glory days, obviously, with the 4 years that they went to the Super Bowl and lost under Marv Levy, who's a Hall of Fame coach. And he coached, I think, from 87 to like 96 or 97. Since then, Sean McDermott, who's made the playoffs 2 of the last 3 years and probably will be 3 of his first 4. He's the most successful coach since Levy. It's been, I think, 8 or 9 head coaches between Levy and him. And I think the only one to make the playoffs in between was Wade Phillips, and that game was the famous Tennessee
Motor City, the Miracle.
Yeah, the Music City Miracle.
Music City Miracle. Yep.
Yeah, home run throwback. Yes, the which was, I think, an illegal play, but anyway. All right. Okay, let's start the show. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Friday, November 27th, 2020.
I'm Jan Levine.
Russ Cohen from Sportsology, and I think Mike was cheating. He looked down on the date there. Just saying.
I'm Kevin Allen, and I don't know what date it is. So.
And I'm Michael Agello. It's the day after Thanksgiving, and this is the Hockey Buzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. Okay, let's start with this, because I think the interesting thing is what Julien BriseBois will do now, because since we last had a show, Michael Sergachev, or Mikhail Sergachev, however you want to pronounce the name, it was a restricted free agent, and he signed a 3-year deal for $14.4 million, $4.8 million AAV. The interesting thing on this deal is the structure of it. Like every deal right now, they're all backloaded because the players don't want they want the least amount of money in the first year of the deal, where the escrow is going to be 20%. But $2.4 million in the first year, $4.8 million in the second year, and $7.2 million in the third year, which means for the qualifying offer, because he's a restricted free agent, 1 year away from being an unrestricted free agent at the end of the deal, they would have to qualify him at over $8 million. Now, I don't know whether he's going to be that good of a defenseman that they're going to want to do that, but Kevin, the question I have now, if you look at the cap friendly and you look at Tampa Bay's salary cap situation, they're over the cap already, and they still haven't signed Cirelli and Cernak. I keep thinking, it doesn't mean a damn thing, right?
I'm going to sound like a broken record, but I just, I think there's a deal out there that he has that he doesn't like, and if he has to do it, he will. But I think he's working, look and see what else he can do. I've talked to a couple of people recently who believe, as I do, that the most likely destination is Nashville.
Johnson.
And that they like Nashville's interested in I'm drawing a blank here.
Tyler Johnson.
Yeah, Johnson, to play on their second line with Duchesne. They just haven't settled on compensation. Now, who knows whether that's true. David Poile plays everything close to the vest, right. But it does make a lot of sense. Like Johnson is 2 years removed from 29 goals. Mm-hmm. He can play, and given the opportunity on the second line, I think he would. I think he could help there. He's certainly better than what they've had there. They don't
want to pay that money. That's for sure.
Pardon me?
They wouldn't want to pay his current salary.
Well, they wouldn't. So, but I think they might if they got enough back from Tampa. It could be like, to me, it's amazing psychology between 5 million and 4.5. Like, doesn't it seem like miles and miles and miles apart? So like if Tampa would take 500,000 and then give up a first round pick and something else, because I think it's at least that. Everybody knows that Tampa is over a barrel, but that alone won't do it. They've got other work to do. But then it becomes, well, then Stamkos will go on long term, and we'll make it work that way.
Russ,
but I don't think it's an issue. I think Tampa Bay has a couple of A plan, B plan, C plan.
For Russ, first on Sergachev, I've liked him since he was drafted. I think there was a big mistake that Buffalo didn't take him at the draft we're at, and they took Alex Nylander instead. He's, I think Montreal made a mistake in trading him, and he's grown into a defenseman. I don't know if he's top pairing. I think he's an excellent 3. And he's being paid like that, but he could grow into a top pairing guy over 3 more years. I mean, do you think that? I think this is a good deal. I think it's a great deal based on where they're at. But what do you think?
No, I think it's a good deal, and I do think he's grown as a player. I've seen him blocking more shots. I've seen his skating improve. I don't know if it was choppy or whatever it was. He was getting away with it, but I noticed last year it looked a lot better. The way he can sort of dominate some shifts now he wasn't able to do early on. I think, like a lot of defensemen, 23, 24, 25 is the point where they really start to, work into that position and really start to feel it. So I think they're getting his best years. Back to the Nashville thing, I would accept the whole salary if they're going to give me like Alex Barboulay, who they've not even utilized yet and has been lighting the AHL on fire. They want to give me that guy too. I'll make the deal.
Yeah, I mean, they have enough youngsters in their minors with Radish and Foote and Volkov. I mean, they're a loaded organization, so they might not even have to give up their first-round pick in a deal to rid themselves of Tyler Johnson. Jan, I mean, you look at their defense the next few years with Hedman and McDonough and Sergachev now locked up. I mean, I'm sure, obviously Brisebois has to get them under 81.5 by the beginning of the regular season. And we don't know if it's going to be the trade or if it's going to be Stamkos and LTIR. But they've set themselves up here to just be, a solid, good to great team for the next 4 or 5 years.
And they have a pipeline of prospects also that's going to be able to fill in spots. I mean, McDonough's contract, in my opinion, and look, he played great in the playoffs last year. But at $6.75 million for the 5 years and the amount of wear and tear that he's had on him, you can obviously see him and Sergachev kind of swapping spots at some point in time to kind of reduce some of the wear on tear on him. And then the fact that they have him locked up and he's an RFA without arb rights again is pretty impressive as well, even though they're going to have to sign him to a high figure. I don't know if it's going to be the 7.2 from the last year. I think it has to do a little more with the AAV and the average associated with it with the signing bonuses. I have to take a look at that. But it was a great move by Brisebois. And look, they're going to have to move somebody because they got to sign Cirelli and Cernak still, which still puts them in a bit of a hamstrung position. But that's part of the process of winning, right? They set themselves up in this position with some of the deals that they gave 3-4 years ago when they gave Johnson the deal. It looked great on paper. Now it looks like a little bit of an albatross around their neck, and they're going to have to take a haircut to try to move him. It's just a matter of how much pain Brisebois is willing to deal with in order to try to create additional cap room to get the other guys under contract.
We welcome Anthony Mangione to the show. Anthony, I'm still recovering from food coma here. It's the Italian thing.
Break out the Alka-Seltzer.
Lots of it. We're talking about the Sergachev signing. Of course, when I saw it, I said, of course if it's any other team, he's going to get $5.5-6 million. But it's Tampa Bay. They're a great team. They have the Florida state tax advantage. I think the deal it's not a ridiculous bargain, but it's a bargain, and he's a really good defenseman. What did you think of the signing?
No, when I saw the deal 3 years, first word, it was a perfect bridge style contract to me. That's how that was set up. And he knows as time goes on, it's him and it's Hedman really as the two heads of that defense going forward. So again, it allows them to kind of move forward, to remain competitive. Again, as you all stated as well, the Tyler Johnson deal is once they can kind of figure that out, and in terms of how much pain they're going to be willing to take, as Jan put to it, then obviously this deal will work out, I think, in the long term. But I thought, it was, again, it did not surprise me one bit when I saw the deal, when I saw it was a bridge contract, because again, they're still trying to maintain obviously a Stanley Cup competitive window, and Sergachev will allow them to do that.
And there hasn't been an offer sheet.
No, not a one.
What are those again?
Always a whisper.
What are those again?
They have to be in the NBA.
The NHL talks a big game and never comes through on it. I think every GM seems to be afraid of each other.
It's
They don't work, folks. That's why they don't do them. If they worked, people would do them.
If they structured it correctly, it would work. The Sebastian Aho deal was so poorly constructed last year. Everybody knew they were going to match.
I have gone over and over this with general managers, and they always say the same thing. And they say, find me someone who can tell me how we can do it, how we don't screw up our own salary cap system and bring a guy in. That's what people forget. You can't just pay someone $15 million and then expect it not to have an impact on everybody else on your roster. That's why they can't do them.
I hope Tom Dundon and Don Waddell sent a magnum of Dom Perignon to Mark for that deal, because it was a gift. It was an absolute
It was a total gift. But I know there's some general managers that want to do them, but none of them have figured out how to do them. And the penalty that's imposed on their own cap system, like you could do it if like, for example, if you wanted to pay, let's just say for the sake of argument, Austin Matthews wasn't signed, and if you want to give him 16.5, then they wouldn't sign. But in order to do that, you're going to totally screw up your own system, because then Mitch Marner is going to need to come up and everything else. And they're too smart to do that. They just can't, figure out a way to do it where it doesn't disrupt their salary cap. I saw somebody tweeted yesterday on Thanksgiving about that the Players Association has to get that changed. And I completely agree if they want that to actually be a factor, because you could change it. The compensation also is an issue.
Right.
And so, like, if you could get rid of that, then you might consider it.
Well, I'll say this, and I know that the rules have changed slightly since these two instances occurred. But if the Joe Sakic offer sheet to the Rangers and the Shea Weber offer sheet by Philadelphia didn't work, it will never work, because they front-loaded those deals so ridiculously to make it painful for the teams to match, and they still matched. So it's never going to work.
Sakic would have worked if Air Force One had come out 1 week later and the guys who they were investing hadn't made a boatload of money after the opening weekend. So that contract would have worked. The Aho one, I think if they'd gone another $500,000 or $750,000 higher and the compensation would have been another first-round pick, they would have. But at that price level, it didn't warrant them.
I always wonder when we all saw the structure of the Aho, it was almost, to me, you never want to talk about any kind of collusion or anything along those lines, but it almost felt like a favor was it really did feel like, as Mike said, a favor was being done. We know that sometimes, deals are made with the intention of, as time goes on, of possibly later deals coming on down the line. But that to me, that's how it read to me when I saw that Aho film.
And Tampa Bay has the benefit of the no state tax, right? So that's one huge factor, because it increases the value of the dollars they earn, as opposed to them going elsewhere, especially when we went to Montreal and the Quebec taxes. The other piece of the equation is they want to stay in Tampa because it's a winning squad. So even if they thought of getting an offer sheet, the players are going to want such a high number to warrant them potentially moving that it may make more sense for them just to remain with the team they're at.
Well, if you go back to the Shea Weber one, and that's a valid point about, if you remember at that time, the reason that everybody thought that might work is that it was said that the Predators were sort of cash strapped,
right?
And they'd actually have to get a loan in order to do it. Well, I remember at the time talking to a couple of owners, because I did a story off of that, and they said there isn't an owner in the league that wouldn't take out a short-term loan to cover that. Like, everybody would have had to get a loan. You don't have $26 million in a safe behind your desk, whatever it was.
It would also speak pretty poorly again of Nashville's ownership too, because if they hadn't done that, because then it would reflect upon, you want to have a united front that all of our franchises are solvent and in good shape. That to let that happen would be a potential problem for the league as much as it is for the individual team.
Yeah, and you also don't want to constantly be rated for your top players. If you don't match one time,
don't set a precedent.
Yeah.
Now, I want to touch on this. We talked about it on Wednesday, and I want to straighten out there was maybe a little bit of a misconception regarding the announcement about Johnny Boychuk. We were not saying on this panel that Boychuk was faking the injury or anything like that. This was a valid eye injury that occurred during the regular season. It just, Kevin, he announced that his career is over with. He didn't retire because he's got 2 years left in his contract. But the Islanders, if you talk about somebody doing a favor, Johnny Boychuk did a favor for them because now they have the cap space to sign Matt Barzal to a new deal. It was convenient timing. Nobody here was saying that it was faked or that the doctors fixed it or anything like that. But it's Lou Lamoriello with Stefan Robida and Joffrey Lupul all over again. He seems to find a way to fit these guys in.
Yeah, it's reminiscent. You remember when Zetterberg retired and he still had years left, and the Red Wings had known he was playing basically against doctor's orders,
right?
And no, he shouldn't have been playing, but it was his own personal choice. He played anyway. So they knew as soon as he would go out that he would be medically cleared and they would not be liable for his money. Just because their own doctors had said you shouldn't be playing, and everybody did. So I'm sure that's the case with Boychuk. That
it brings up a good argument though, Kev. So like when you look into Boychuk, he not only played the last 3 playoff games. In that last one, he played over 15 minutes, and he had the second most. He had over 5 minutes, second most time on the penalty kill, which again, the penalty kill is not the easiest thing to play. So you kind of wonder, should there be minimum standards for players to have to hurdle to play in a hockey game?
Well, that often brings up, and I've often said this. You know who the biggest obstacle is to getting more surveillance of players in NHL games to bring out is the players themselves. Like you tell a player, you got to come off the ice. They just don't do it. They don't want to do it. They just there's no way. It's it's a real difficult situation because everybody wants control of their own medical issues, and yet Russ raises a great for the good of the player. You almost sometimes have to pull them off the ice, but it's hard to do.
I mean, we always glorify and extol the virtues of the guys who play through this in the playoffs, right? You even look at Dallas, what Tyler Seguin played through, and now he's out 5 months, with Pasternak, with Marchand. And those are just recent examples. You go back in history, there's guys with broken legs and everything else, and they're lofted on a high banner for being able to play through pain in order to get their team a shot to win the cup. Guys are going to play through everything in order to get a shot at winning the cup, given how hard it is to do so. And it's the thing we talk about always in organization. So the problem is in this case, as you said, he played the last 3 games, right? An eye injury, maybe he did suffer a setback or maybe something occurred in the offseason. But the problem is the optics of it is bad, given the nature of the ability for him to go on LTIR, because we know they didn't use the term retire, said he's no longer able to play purposely for semantics and insurance purposes and LTIR reasons. You kind of get into the position of that gray area, which is why we all start to questioning. Look, I'm not saying he's not injured, but the problem is the convenience factor and Lamoriello's history with other events sort of has to put some level of speculation associated with the move itself.
Right. Okay. Let's move on to the league itself and where things stand in terms of when the season will start. Kev, I thought it was optimistic maybe a couple weeks ago that they would start on January 1st, but I thought it would happen. Now it's starting to look like January 1st is a pipe dream, and that it's starting to look more like the middle of January, and not a 60-game schedule, but a 48-game schedule. The two sides haven't talked in over a week since the owners came out with the increased deferment, increased escrow, or increased deferment and down the line increased escrow. Where do you think things stand? Do you think we're looking at a staring contest? We're looking at a staring contest. Kev?
Well, I think that I'm with you. Can you hear me?
Yep, you're good.
Yeah. Okay. I think it will get done. I think the players, although they've you hear that they're outraged over this. I think they knew this was coming, and I think a lot of this is just sort of posturing. And I think there's going to still be a further compromise for what the league wants and where they're at now. But I would think that it would be closer to what the players have already agreed to than what the league is now asking. Just because they did negotiate this. This is a classic case where you negotiate a contract and one side ended up with an advantage, and then the other side said when it doesn't work out, well, we need to renegotiate. Well, the reason the players did the contract in the first place is they thought it was a good contract for them, and it turned out that it was.
Right.
So I think it's going to get done. I spoke to a general manager the day before Thanksgiving, who said he was still planning on with the idea that they were going to open the season January 1st. And he said, I could be wrong, but he said, I sort of believe that they'll get this worked out because it's in the players' best interest to get going.
Right.
They need to make money. So he said he thought it would get done. And but I think it was Russ that pointed out the last time I was on this show. That the 7 teams have already gotten screwed. And they're not going to get the benefit of having the extended training camp. So
yeah.
And Anthony, I look at the situation here is, we've had seasons where there've been 48 games before, so it's not territory that the league hasn't gone down before. I don't think those seasons would be looked upon as having they weren't looked upon as having asterisks to them, but because of the pandemic, having intra-division for 48 games and then going into a playoff, and according to Pierre LeBrun, there's talk about, like, say if there's a Canadian division, they won't be playing outside of that Canadian division until the conference final.
Yeah.
Would you think that the season would have some sort of asterisk because of that?
It would almost feel like you have 4 different leagues playing.
Right.
That's basically how you would kind of have to look at it. It'd be like 4 different geographic leagues playing and then meeting, in those conference final setups. And at the moment, I think that, I wouldn't look at it as an asterisk per se. It's just accepting the fact that if you're going to play any hockey this season, you have to adapt and deal with the hand that you're dealt.
Right.
And I think this is probably, if you're going to have these games, you're going to have a 48-game season. It is probably the safest method to do it, because then you at least buy time. You get to the summer, you have a chance at that point where potentially you have a vaccine or something successful out there, and then you could talk about maybe either having a conference final at home locations versus setting up 4 teams for a conference and Stanley Cup final at a bubble location.
Right.
So to me, I look at it as this is just the hand that they're dealt right now. It's either that or you don't play.
Right. Yeah, and the one thing I've said this before, and I think it's the case. If I'm the players and I have a choice between increasing deferment and increasing escrow in year 1, or negotiating a deal where you increase the deferment that goes further down where the escrow is at a lower amount, you're actually getting more money in the long run by doing that. But I think it's just the principle that they're going back with hat in hand 4 months after they had a deal to come back again to have renegotiate, and really the optics and things haven't changed much. But I think the owners realize that they're not going to make any money this year, or very little money, other than advertising and TV contract. They're not, you're likely not going to have fans in the stands until at least April.
So the problem is, Mike, if you go with what the owners are suggesting now, the players are in essence getting 61% on their contract. In addition, even with the deferment, the big issue associated that we discussed is there's no VIG. There's no juice for the players.
Right.
All you're doing is deferring, and we've talked about the present value of money. You're getting less down the road because there's no interest rate associated with it.
Sure.
They're not giving you anything to do with it. I understand that the owners are feeling the pain. We've talked about this, but the problem is now you're asking the players to give more of what they gave already, after already being in a position where they gave beforehand associated with the contract you signed with.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, let's start defining what hockey-related revenue is, because we all know that's specious at best, especially when Seattle comes in and every team is getting $32 million of additional capital that's going into the owners' pockets and going nowhere else.
Right. Well, you could make the argument that the hockey-related revenue there is 50 pro contracts for players. So
you could.
All right. Okay, Russ, we saw the news about 2 players testing positive for hockey for Team Canada. That Hockey Canada is putting all their players and everybody else into a bubble early. That they're shutting down for, I believe, 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
The way that I've seen the increase in COVID rate explode in Alberta, which was the place back in July and August that had the least amount of positive cases, it's starting to put a uncertain status on what happens for the World Junior. What have you heard?
Yeah, there's a good article. I guess it started on I don't remember what Canadian website, but I'm looking at chatnewstoday.ca, and there's a doctor over at University of Alberta, Lorian Hardcastle, who basically said, hey, look, the NHL, when they did a great job, but there wasn't a surge in cases like there is now. So Alberta, at the time when the NHL was there, had 1,386 cases. Now they have 14,510 deaths. The biggest problem is this person believes, and I don't feel much different, it's not safe for the players to be coming into a place that's surging because, we forget, yes, the Canadian players can get their way out of this and they could quarantine their way out of this. You've got players from a lot of other countries that are coming into this. Are you going to quarantine them for 2 weeks before they even come into Canada? Probably not. And so you could be making that situation worse before it gets better. And then the timing of the tournament would be a problem. So if they were willing to push back the tournament, I don't think there would be any question that it would happen. But I think if they're going to try and stick to the dates, there's a problem here. And again, it's really with asymptomatic cases. It's hard to figure out what the damage is going to be with that because, again, you could get tested right when you get on the plane out in Finland. And by the time you get to Edmonton, by the next day, it could be a different story.
Yeah, but if they push the tournament back, then they're going to have to move it because that building is for the Oilers. So, they can play Red Deer or something like that. But
I think that's been talked about. But it is just one of those things where, you're talking about 250 players plus staff. So for like 400 people, that's a lot of people. And we're not including scouts in this, which I totally don't understand what the IIHF is doing here because media is allowed, but scouts are not.
If
you want to limit the number of scouts, okay.
Yeah.
I don't get this at all.
Kevin, it's unbelievable. I believe that U.S. media are not allowed to go to the tournament.
You're not. It says it right on the application.
Yeah, but Canadian
United States, you could only work on this remotely.
Yeah, Russ and I applied for remote for Zoom calls and things of that nature. But Canadian media, and I'm assuming Finnish, Russian media, they may be allowed. American media, no, and no scouts. Really, I'm dumbfounded that the IIHF is not going to even let them in the building 500 feet away from the players.
Yeah, no, it's that is bizarre, and that's being way too overly cautious. They wouldn't have to be anywhere near the players. It's not like
they never are.
See anyone. So I'm not sure what that's about.
Even if they said they all had to be in suites, Kev, or the teams buy suites anyhow. Like that's normally the way they handle it. Canadian press is the one that broke this, but that's the way they normally handle it. Normally these guys are all in suites anyhow. So in a way, they would be well away from the players.
Yeah. All right. Let's do something fun here. I found a list and. The name of the person who compiled this is it's on Reddit, but he didn't list his name. He's just got his screen name.
That's already dangerous.
Well, no, I looked up.
I
looked up five names on here, and they were all right. So I'm going to. It's not anything. It's
good research, Mike.
The Mike and Buffalo cross reference has been completed, and we are ready to present this.
Sponsored by the Anchor Bar, where the wings are murder. Okay, this is a list of players who have scored the most goals in each individual building. Now, obviously, it's going to be somebody for the home team because they play 41 games a year, while only the visitors play at most 3 times. So, but okay, we'll start with and just throw out the name, and I'll give you who it is. Whoever says the first, Amalie Arena in Tampa, who was the leading goal scorer. Stamkos, yes. I mean, some of these are fairly easy. Some of them will be a little bit challenging. The American Airlines Center in Dallas.
Ooh.
Ben.
Jamie Benn.
Yeah, I was thinking between seconds more assists.
Our favorite building in Sunrise, Florida, the BB&T Center.
I'll go
Burray, probably.
Yeah.
No, maybe not.
No, it's Russ's favorite shootout guy.
Ole
Okinen.
Oh, yeah.
Mine too.
Anthony, your microphone is crisping.
I'll unplug and replug.
There we go. The Bell Center in Montreal, or Centre Bell in Montreal. Former Habs team captain. Not
Max Pacioretty.
Bingo.
Yeah,
129 goals.
Wow.
not a lot.
Not a
No,
lot.
I
Not the
wouldn't
forum
have got
page,
that.
that's why.
The Bell MTS Center in Winnipeg. If Pete Tessier was on the show, he would
Lake
get
Wheeler.
Lake Wheeler. Yes.
Yeah.
Man, I wanted to go a Manitoba Moose player. Come on.
Okay. The Bridgestone Arena in Nashville.
Ooh.
I think this is tough. Yeah.
Ryan
That one's a
Johansson.
tough one.
This player, after his career with the Predators, played with Buffalo, Ottawa, and Detroit.
Greg Johnson.
No,
he didn't play in Buffalo.
I believe he was the first Predators first round pick.
Oh, leg one.
David.
I didn't think he had that many goals. I should have gone with
Leghorn had more goals than you thought. You're
Yeah.
thinking about him for assists, but he scored quite a bit.
110 goals. Okay.
not a lot of goals for as long as that place has been around.
Yes. 100. The Canadian Tire Center in Ottawa. This player was known for faking throwing his stick.
Alexei Yashin.
Nope. No, he was known for dating Carol.
Not Alfie.
Alfie.
Alfie was Alfie. Okay. All right.
Yeah, remember he faked throwing the stick into the crowd.
Right.
Making fun of his countrymen.
Should be future Hall of Famer Daniel Alfredson also, but
yes, well, unfortunately, but you're right. 228 goals. My favorite Leaf player of all time was Mark Bell for laying out Daniel Alfredson.
What is wrong?
you know what? You should just mute him just for saying that.
Oh, stop! I'm just kidding.
No, you're not. That's the problem.
Mike has a collection of axes that he grinds on a regular basis.
There's nothing left.
There's no metal. This one is the easiest one of them all. The Capital One Arena in Washington.
Alex Ovechkin.
Yeah, there you go.
Ovi.
This one surprised me a little bit. The Enterprise Arena in St. Louis.
Ooh, because that's where he's been around a little.
Keith Kachuk?
No.
No, I was going to say Pavel. What was Dimitra?
Yeah.
Pavel Dimitra.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Dimitri scored at a ridiculous rate there. In St.
I was gonna give.
And that arena's been around for a little bit since the '90s. So
I think it's the oldest now.
Yeah, I was gonna give the macabre.
Is it older than Wells Fargo Center? Still younger?
I think it's a year or two older in Wells Fargo. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna give the macabre clue that he's the only one on the list that is deceased.
Well, glad I got that one in advance. Thanks.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
still got it out there.
Yeah, sorry. I'm not taking any great pleasure.
Thank you for the morbidity factor. Let's continue.
Usually that's Russ. Is rest in peace.
Oh, here we go.
The Gila River Arena in Glendale.
Oh, I'm going to Keith Kachuk.
No.
Roenick.
No.
Oh no, Gila because again they were at America.
Oh, it's Gila, right?
That's right. Because I'm thinking of America West.
That's right. I was thinking that.
It can't be that. So, arguably,
Shane Doan. These are all the current buildings. I'm sure if it was America West.
I got to ask an honest question. What, Kevin? Worst sight lines: America West Arena for hockey or Barclays Center?
Barclays. Yeah.
Okay.
I've heard bad things about
America West was bad.
America West was awful. I heard that.
Yeah. No, it was awful. Yeah. No, they're both really terrible.
Okay. The Honda Center in Anaheim.
Korea.
Getzlaff?
Korea.
Not Korea.
Oh,
Salami.
Salami.
Yes.
Oh, Salami.
Korea with the assist. He was often feeding Salami on.
Yep. 251.
Team Tamu, baby.
It's a good amount of goals.
The KeyBank Center in Buffalo.
Andrew Chuck?
No. He would have been
the odd more. That's right.
Ooh. How did Danny Briere? Because Danny Briere was on a pretty good clip there, but I don't think he's up there.
I'll go Chris Drury.
No, he was there long enough.
This guy is well known for basically playing with almost every NHL team in the last 4 years of his career. Islanders, Montreal, Detroit. He was traded a bunch of times at the deadline.
Okay.
Thomas Vander.
I don't know why. Yeah, Van.
Okay.
I don't know why I said Hossa. Sorry, I meant
Okay, this player has the interesting stat of having the least amount of career goals in this particular building because the building is very new. The Little Caesars Arena in Detroit.
Dylan Larkin?
No.
Anthony Mantha.
No.
Bertuzzi?
No.
I know it's Zadina.
No. The clue
Eventually, he'll get there eventually.
The clue is his first initial is the same as his last initial.
Athanasiou?
Athanasiou.
Oh, God.
37 career goals in Little Caesars Arena.
Yeah.
Okay. Madison Square Garden. Now, this is obviously the same building that they refurbished.
What year are we counting for the
Yeah, where are
Garden?
we counting from? Because if it's the old, it would be Gilbert.
Right.
But I don't know if we're counting from then.
You got it.
Gilbert.
Rod Gilbert.
All right, so we're counting all the iterations of Madison Square Garden, starting from 50th Street.
Yeah, the actual physical address. So the updates mean nothing. And this is the second easiest one next to Ovechkin, Nassau Coliseum.
Boston.
Yeah, exactly. And if you took the Olympia, it'd be Gordie Howe. If you took Northlands Coliseum, it would be Gretzky.
Right.
Nationwide Arena in Columbus.
Nash.
Bingo. This one surprised me. The Pepsi Center in Colorado.
Sackett?
I'm going to go Alex Tanguay.
You're on the right path there, Russ, but the wrong guy.
Haydu.
Milan,
Haydu.
Yeah, I figured it'd be one of those guys. I did.
188 goals.
That's pretty
Really good player, Haydu.
Hayduk, yeah, he was under. He was. It was
Really
possible
good
for a player to be underrated. He was a great
Sure.
player. He really was.
Okay. The PNC Arena in Carolina.
Not Sammy Kapanen.
No.
Eric Stahl.
Eric Stahl.
Yeah, that's
163.
Yeah.
The PP&G Paints Arena in Pittsburgh.
Sidney Crosby.
It's a new arena. No, it may be Malkin.
It could be.
Malkin.
It's one or the other.
Again,
It was one or the other. It had
One or the other.
Malkin's, but again, Malkin known, I think, a bit more for his goal scoring too.
Yeah.
151 goals for Malkin. Okay, The Rock, the Prudential Center in Newark.
Patrick Elias.
Yep,
Yeah, that's a good guess.
98 goals.
Man.
Okay, Rogers Arena in Vancouver.
Ooh. Daniel Sedin?
Naslin.
Daniel Sedin.
Daniel Sedin.
Oh.
Naslin would have been my next one, but yeah, Daniel Sedin.
197.
Naslin did play in the old. Did he? I'm trying to think. How long's Rogers been around now?
Good question. I think
I was in 05, but I think it's been around a little longer than that.
I think Naslin played the majority of his because I mean it was.
Yeah, I do too. He's probably second on that list.
Yeah. Rogers Place in Edmonton.
I mean, I gotta go with it, but it could be Draisaitl.
No, it's McDavid.
McDavid.
78 goals. Okay. The Saddle Dome in Calgary.
Jerome McGinley.
269. By the way,
The amount of goals for McGinley, man. That's awesome.
the most goals in one building. The
Who
most
was second at Saddle Dome? I'm thinking it might be Neuendijk was there for a long time.
It'd be Fleury.
Fleury.
No, Neuendijk had a 50 goal season. So,
Exactly.
yeah. By the way, the leading goal scorer in one building is Ovechkin at 345. Bossy is second at 316. Iginla is fourth with 269. This guy is third with 277 in the SAP Center in San Jose.
Marlowe.
Yeah,
Wouldn't
270.
be Thornton because he may not have scored that many in his career, or just a little
Right.
bit.
Yeah, Thornton doesn't score enough goals.
Product of goal scoring attrition over time because he was been the same team for so long.
Okay, this guy is known for not winning a Stanley Cup, winning Olympic gold medal, and not waiving his no trade clause.
Matt Sundin, like, come on, man.
He's found another axe to grind.
I didn't even have to hear.
He keeps getting smaller and smaller, that axe. He's got nothing left.
No,
to
he's got a collection of them in his basement. He just gets another one out.
That would be like the daily double on Michael Jello's Jeopardy. Like,
I worry more about the stone that that he uses the grinding on than the axe. He has plenty.
Who
of
is Matt Sundin?
that was too easy. We didn't even need the audio from that daily double.
Okay, this
Anthony, the problem is, though, he starts getting to the wood and grinding that down, and then it's all over.
And we have a fire on our hands.
it's a toothpick at the end of it. The Staples Center in LA.
Oh,
Gretzky?
I'll go Kopitar.
no,
Kopitar,
Dustin-
yeah.
I was going to say that
Or
Doug
Matt
Brown
Penn, I guess.
or Dustin
Kopitar
Brown was on.
over 173 goals. He just beat out Ziggy Palffy. No, just kidding.
Yeah,
One of my favorite players of all time is Palffy.
that's good if he could beat out Palffy. I mean, Palffy didn't play there as long.
Palffy's a really underrated career. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
he would have stayed another year or two. I think he would have had a lot of Hall of Fame votes, in my opinion.
Yeah, he was a great player.
The TD Garden in Boston.
Ooh.
Since they moved, so again, we were counting for TD Guard. Okay.
Yeah.
Pasternak's on a good clip right now, but it's not.
Yeah. I'm going to go Marchand.
Nope.
No, actually,
Bergeron?
I
Bergeron.
was going to say Bergeron because
Bergeron,
he's had a pretty good for as much as we talk about his defensive acumen. Bergeron's a scorer throughout his
Honestly,
career.
Kevin, I have so much respect for Bergeron that I think when he retires, they should waive the 3-year or the waiting period when it comes to putting him in the Hall of Fame.
I agree.
He's
I
so
don't disagree with
Yeah, no. Yeah, you should, but he's never really been acclaimed like that, even though his greatness extends to intangibles and defensive play and offensive play and leadership. He had it all.
The T-Mobile Arena in Vegas, this guy scored most of his goals in 1 year.
Carlson.
Yeah.
William Carlson.
I was trying to think of the name. Like, I knew who it was.
It was an amazing tear that first
Yeah,
year.
47 career goals.
Now he gets 20 a year.
Right. Three more, and we're done. The United Center in Chicago.
Patrick Kane.
Patrick Kane, 193. Okay, put on your thinking cap here, Anthony. Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia.
So now we're getting in Wells Fargo Center. So you got Leclerc, who had a really.
I know who my answer is, but I'll let Anthony go first.
In terms of pure goal scoring in this case, this one's not as easy as you think.
Ding, 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 ding,
Yep.
ding.
It's a tough one there. Oh my God, I'm wrecking my brain and I'm having a difficult time here. We're going from 90. We're going 96 full. So we're going from 96 and going forward. And there's a part of me that's thinking it's going to be. Oh, Briere had some good numbers. No, not Briere.
I'm going Lindros.
No, is it Eric? No, not Eric. Because
Make a guess. I'll give you. Make a guess.
I'm saying Eric Lindros. That's what I'm saying.
Go ahead, Anthony.
I'll go with Eric, but I don't think it's right.
John Leclerc.
I said Leclerc at the beginning.
Leclerc in the beginning.
I said Leclerc right at the beginning.
It wasn't like final answer.
Anthony, you forgot to phrase it in the form of a question.
Oh yeah.
That was dirty.
Now it's my axe. Now I have an axe to grind with Michael's name on it.
Yeah. You got it on the first shot.
I did. Leclerc was the first instant because he just had a ridiculous 50-50-50. He was
I had a momentary lapse of hearing.
And that was from the 04 playoffs. Mike wanted to get back at you.
Yeah, there you go. Sammy's still subconscious. Okay, XL Energy Center in Minnesota. Last one.
Parise.
Breezy.
Nope.
West Walls. Just kidding.
No Gaborik, no.
No, that's a tough one. So in this case, Desert, we wiped out those guys. Hold on.
Clue. This guy was a career-long Wild player until this past offseason.
West Walls.
No. It's this offseason. I was almost about to say who's the player?
Nika.
Buffalo.
Nico
Koivu.
Koivu.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Great show.
At least one Koivu had it.
Yeah.
Everybody,
See you later, guys. I got to run.
Thanks, Kevin.
Everybody will have a great weekend. Actually, if we have any, we'll finish off the show. If there's anybody in the chat that has a question, give us a quick question here, guys. Russ, you just said something about one of the Bills' offensive linemen being out for the year.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a guy who's basically been going back between guard and tackle all year. So it's like, so now your former Jet player will be playing every day.
Oh, that's right.
Brian Winters.
Listen, the Eagles are facing the same thing right now. Lane Johnson's already declared himself he's done for the year.
He said his ankle basically is exploded almost, is what he said.
I mean, I don't know how he's played as much as he had this year. He said no plant, no drive. He should have stayed out earlier.
He should have.
And now they're restructuring. I mean,
I couldn't believe that Jason Peters is still playing left tackle. I thought
they just moved him back to that. They moved that he's going to be doing right guard.
Right.
They're going to play Mailata and see what they got of Mailata now.
He's a big guy. I mean, at least look, he's mobile. He's more mobile than Peters, so at least you got that.
All right, couple questions here and I'm on the show. Funky asks, would Sammy Vatanen take a cheap Shattenkirk-like deal to go to Tampa after they get everything else done? I don't know if Tampa needs him.
They can't afford it. I think if they could afford it, he would, but I don't think they can afford it.
Maybe another contending team like a Colorado. But remember, Shattenkirk took the 1.5 after getting the buyout from the Rangers, so he was getting money. He could afford to take a 1-year deal.
Originally, I thought when we were when they were within an hour of announcing that it was going to be Eric Gustafson, I thought potentially Vatanen would have been maybe heading to Philadelphia because of Philly's familiarity with him playing with New Jersey, but that did not happen. So at this point now, I mean, I don't see Philadelphia certainly being in the mix for him at all.
You wonder if Chara doesn't come back to Boston. Could Boston be potentially an option for him?
I mean, first of all, Vatanen's a righty, so there will be a lot of teams out there that will be interested. I think it's going to end up being a 1-year deal because he's going to want to cash in on a short season and not lock himself up to something longer, and then be able to go out in free agency where there'll be more money next year. So I don't think he's signing a multi-year deal. Best guess.
They don't give discounts at Gabriel's Gate, David. Just so you know.
Yeah. We don't talk about that name. No, that's a name.
We all know, Mike. It's all over.
No, I don't hear you, Russ. FA in the chat asked best guess on when the NHL comes back.
I'm going to go 15th.
Yeah, I'm
mid-month.
15th.
Mid-month.
I'm going to go a week later. I'm going to go. Originally, they talked about like the 18th or so was what the NBA talked about.
Yeah,
I'm going to say like the 18th or the 22nd, somewhere in that range. That week seems to be likely.
Has the NBA pushed off officially from?
Nope, they're starting December 20. They're starting December 22nd right now.
Yeah, Anthony, they can't move that date because they lose like $500 million to $1 billion
if they move it back.
Yeah, so if they have to play inside a plastic.
And again, it's with less with they don't have the same number of personnel to track that the NHL does in terms of playing personnel.
Yeah,
right. But you're still opening up arenas and everything else, so you still have to have the same infrastructure associated with behind the scenes. So
yeah.
Randy's asking me who will win the MVP this season. I'll say McKinnon because that's an easy.
I'm going to go Ovechkin.
Ovechkin. Okay, Jan.
McDavid.
Okay.
I'm going to say McKinnon. I thought he was in the running last year. I think he's going to be motivated for it, and I think he gets it. FA
asks, what does Toronto do for a goalie after this year? Well, if I had that answer, I'd be GM of the league.
David Ayers.
I don't even know.
Not David Ayers, please. Yeah, did you see my response?
Oh, there goes that axe. I hear the grinding in the background. I can hear
Did you see my answer to that yesterday?
Nope.
Yeah.
Missed that one, so I'm glad.
No, I missed it too.
I'll send it to you.
Me too.
Oh,
I missed that one.
you talk about the response to the tweet from yesterday.
Yes.
Yes.
I hold a grudge very, very well, Anthony.
No.
Especially when the goalie's wearing blue pads, beating your team.
For Anthony Mangione, for Jan Levine, for Russ Cohen, and for the departed Kevin Allen, I'm Michael Agello. Thank you for watching the Hockey Buzzcast. And remember, without the buzz,